just in general that's going to be coming through as we do jump into Champs League now. Kx.Happy going to start on the blue side. Remember, best of 5, so plenty of games. And M3, of course, over on the red. That's the big thing for me. We just finished the LPL split 2 days ago, and these guys have to jump in a massive best of 5s. Preparation's going to be key here.
Yeah, and M3, they've been playing for their life the whole split. They were playing for the LPL lives, making sure they didn't get into this point. Now they're straight back into it, and it's just going to be crazy for these guys. If anyone is going to be affected by this, it is the Dardays, it is the Looper. They're not used to being in this situation where they are, if they don't win now, they're not in LPL next season.
Yeah, they have to blame the LSPL like Kx.Happy did to get to this spot to try and qualify. But we're through some of the bans now. LeBlanc and Desir both banned away, so Dade going to have to show us something new in these picks. And Twisted Fate Cho'Gath bans by M3. That's basically 4 mid lane bans.
Yeah, it certainly is. And you know, we haven't really seen much of the Cho'Gath come through. Maybe it's something that Dade doesn't want to play against. It has a lot of lane pressure. So we'll have to see how Kx.Happy responds to this. Because if they throw another ban at Dade, his champion pool has never been that big, but they do go with the Thresh.
Yeah, last ban there, going to ban away that contested support that we expect. Might line up a first pick Annie here for KX, but M3 on the ball, ban it away.
Yeah, so both of the supports getting banned away from Kx.Happy as well as Love CD coming through. So I don't know how that one is going to work out in all, because this is kind of crazy now. They've taken away their seemingly whole champion pool.
Yeah, I mean, there's both the bottom lanes in the supports and the mid laners have had their champion pool shredded here. Sejuani is going to be the first pick coming through for KX. Very standard, very strong stuff here on 5.6.
Yeah, it certainly is. And we said that KX, they like to play meta. They like to play the strong pick. So they're definitely going to be happy to pick up the Sejuani. If we've shown anything, it's very easy to force fights on this patch, because a lot of the ADs, the hyper carries, can't siege up turrets well, unless you're talking about the Jinx, who really is the exception to that rule. So need to be in a position to be able to brawl, and Sejuani does that for you.
I mean, just so dangerous around a hyper carry as well, with the likes of Urgot running around, specifically to start countering the likes of Kalista. Nautilus as well, been massively popular, and Party carries have big targets on their head right now, and M3 are going to kick things off for the big tanky brawlers, Nautilus and Gragas.
And this is why it is so valued to be on the red side of the champion select at the moment, because you get 2 priority picks. Nautilus, probably the best remaining support on the board. Gragas does exactly the same thing as Sejuani in the mid game, being that huge tank, but is more about the disengage than the engage, so they kind of counter each other. If Gragas gets caught out of position, Sejuani can start the fight. Other side of the map, Gragas can just put so much degrees of separation between everyone, so I really like what M3 have gone for here.
Yeah, Gragas' versatility has really impressed me from the jungle overall, as KX spent a bit of time there locking in those last picks quite late, but it is Maokai Siva, so back to basics here for KX.
Yeah, and a big heavy engage comp coming through so far. Once again, they're going to be able to force mid game extremely hard, so you need to be careful if you are M3 here. They've shown the Kalista because they're happy now that Urgot won't be an AD carry pick, that at least they'll get through the laning phase. And we'll have to see exactly how that works out. Hecarim, of course, probably one of the best top laners on the current meta. Throw him up there with Shyvana. The Horse and the Dragon, they kind of do the exact same thing in laning phase, but Hecarim seems to be more effective in the team fight.
Yeah, and Lupa just been such a good-looking player. Again, we talk about Lupa loving high-impact ultimates. Hecarim's definitely got a big ulti, and Lupa's had some great flanks in M3 wins in the LPL, but we are here in promo. Of course, Kalista picked away for SMLZ, and KX going to consider their last 2 picks, looking at potentially very popular mid lane pick here with Vladimir.
Yeah, so Vladimir being looked at with the Azir off the board. If we've seen anything, it's Azir can punish Vladimir in lane. So they were probably planning on running this one. Cements a little bit more damage in what is a lackluster lineup so far. You always have that danger when you play a Severe that she just can't get in range. She gets zoned very easy as an AD carry. So throwing Vlad in there just means that the Sejuani, the Maokai, they start doing a lot more meaningful damage.
And this comp's really well put together by KX. Vladimir, Morgana, their last 2 picks, and we talk about Gragas, Nautilus, Sejuani, and even Urgot running rampant on this patch. Morgana's an incredible support in this situation.
Yeah, she certainly is. She just keeps someone grounded against the low magic damage that will come out of Condi. Means they won't get knocked away. Look for that to most likely be the Maokai. Get him sped up, get him on the back line, make sure he's in SMLZ's face, and really trying to take it to him. And across the lineup, they've got a very strong mid-game composition. They all peak around 11 to 15. They're going to look to dictate the flow of the game.
Yeah, and last pick here for Dade is that Rise coming through, which means we're going to have to honor it. There's Hecarim, sorry, mix it around there. So swap away their champions, but Dade drew bans in the late weeks of the LPL and Rise, and he's got it here.
Yeah, and they showed that Looper wanted to play the Rise in the last series. I like that they've gone back to Dade on it. It's a lot safer in mid lane at the moment because you can just farm your tier up. The problem with top lane is that because they're all playing tanks, you might think, well, that's good. They can't get through. They can't kill him. They just sit under turret for like 3 to 4 minutes. Slowly auto-attacking you to death if you Rise, and unfortunately you just don't do meaningful enough damage to dissuade anything coming through.
No, I mean, for me in that particular game, I think M3 just outthought themselves in the draft. We're like, yeah, we can flex picks Rise, it's really cool. And like, oh, this is actually not great. As we do run through the lineups, Eternal versus Looper in the top side, Maokai takes on Hecarim.
Yeah, and Eternal, he's a star player. That's a man we want to look at.
Yep.
But Sejuani versus Gragas, this is a lineup we'll see a lot. Gragas early advantage, Sejuani very strong late game.
Yeah, Nunai versus Condi, an interesting matchup there as Tree in the mid versus Dade. That's a name.
Yeah, it certainly is. So we'll see exactly how this one works out. Of course, Dade known for his Rise play. TRN takes on SMLZ. Just lots of letters in the bottom lane pastry time.
Yeah, lots of acronyms that we don't know what they mean. It's Kx.Happy. Round things off, Morgana versus Nautilus. Honestly expecting to see Morgana as we move through the playoffs because just seems to fit against a lot of the popular picks so well. Nautilus being a great example.
Yeah, he certainly does. There's a lot of CC that comes out of Nautilus, but not much magic damage, so you're able to, I guess, shrug a lot of that off as the game gets started.
Yeah, good stuff here coming through as we're about to launch our way in. Excited to see what these teams do. Haven't had a chance to watch too much of the LPL. I have to say, it's going to be really exciting to see just how they play against pretty strong-looking team in M3 who almost made playoffs.
Yeah, M3 was so close. They were gutted that they didn't make it through, but I really like the chances of Kx.Happy. They've shown that they've got a good understanding of M3's draft, at least, so they've put themselves up for success.
Yeah, we'll see how they do. We're going to kick off game one. And welcome onto the Rift here for the first game of our best of 5 LPL Summer promotion tournament spawn. A little bit of different stuff here. LPL teams coming in along with the bottom side LPL teams. And right now it's Kx.Happy versus M3.
Yeah, it certainly is. And good thing to note about these two teams, they share Koreans in the same lanes.
Yep,
so it's
top and mid.
Top and mid, Eternal and Churchree for Kx.Happy, as well as Looper and Dade, of course, for M3, and we see a little bit of a lane swap potentially coming out already, pastry time.
Yeah, I like that you mentioned the draft actually from Kx.Happy. It's funny that we come in like doing some of our research and like, you know what we could say about Kx.Happy? They like to play meta, and this is a meta draft I've ever seen one really strong team come put together.
Yeah, it certainly is, and we've kind of seen the full 360 of AD carries come through. Sivir, she started extremely strong. Everyone kind of figured out how to play against her. We saw the Trinity Force units come in. But then when everyone got tanky, it was like, well, we can't play Trinity Force against Sivir anymore. So she reappeared in the meta. I really like that teams were able to make that adaptation so strong. And we see standard starts, although they're starting on a buff for Kx.Happy, maybe an early invade.
Yeah, you're not going to get on there, so they'll get on top of the red buff. Love City actually tanking up creeps right now with level SMLZ. So, yeah, we're going to pull the minions off the wave and try and start a freeze.
Yeah, that's a deep freeze started right there because he tanks so many shots. Generally, if you want to freeze a lane, you don't do that. You walk up, walk back slightly, and then you keep kiting them back to the brush. It doesn't get you as deep of a freeze as a single invade comes through from W, trying to just force them off their camps.
Yeah, very manly stuff from the Morgana, but Condi and Looper pretty strong right now. Morgana maybe can steal a straight creep with a W. That'll be quite a sight, but she'll be able to secure it. Condi does get the big one, and they'll be safe for now.
Yeah, just looking to pick up the big wolf. That would have been completely devastating, but doesn't get it in the end. So that's good news coming through from M3. And Dade already, with all of his consistent damage, weaving auto attacks as well, starting to bully out the Vlad.
I mean, Vlad definitely suffers in the early stages, early levels in his lane. And we've seen Vlad's, try and farm up, eventually get ahead in matchups. But I actually really like what Dade's done with his summoner spell. He's just going Ignite, saying, you know what? I'm going to fight you early on.
Yeah, he certainly is looking for that. And that's one of the only matchups I think we would see him take the Ignite. Normally loves the Ghost to get himself in position. But, of course, Rise has his ultimate, so he's able to utilize that one to catch up to people. As we see, he's got a massive wave coming through here. I'm surprised they didn't go for a dive just because of the fact that he's built it up so successfully. It's just off the turret. As soon as the next one crashes, there's a real chance here that he can take over the lane.
Yeah, Looper and Condi, though, are top side on the map right now. Potentially see Condi looking in for a dive there, but right now Dade just getting ahead in the lane, and we don't often say that about Rise lanes, but this is probably the one you can do this in.
Yeah, it certainly is, and you know, it just is going to mean he gets a free tier. It might not mean so much late game, because Vlad will be able to pick up a lot of the CS here, hopefully, for Churchery, but wow, he doesn't manage to grab a lot of it, and Dade, he's continuing to bully.
Yeah, just being annoying here, and again, it's weird that we've sort of come full circle with mid lane. There's lots of sustained damage, lots of farm-heavy stuff, but Rise, especially in a short-range mage matchup, is somehow king of a lane again.
Yeah, exactly right, and if Rise can win any lane, it means bad things for the meta in general normally, because he is so huge late game that he suffocates a lot of champions out of the meta, and if Dade is able to make this one work, it's bad news throughout games 2 to 5 just because of how much pressure he can exert on this champion. You can see already they're bringing people mid.
Yeah, have to go in there. Eternal going to dive in actually on the Maokai now. Nunai's in here as well. W also going to catch him off, and Dade getting 4-man gank here at 4.5 minutes. Is going to go down. Sejuani claims first blood.
Wow, 4 members committed to that mid lane just to take out the Rise. He was playing it so aggressively, and they made him pay for it, but how often can you expect a 4-man gank at the 5-minute mark?
Yeah, these are in actually not quite standard lane, so I guess a bit more roaming opened up. We actually missed some of the lane stops due to the early level on action, but Dade, I mean, he'll get the free recall, but probably not the one he wanted.
Yeah, it definitely was not the one he wanted, although he does grab his tier and boot, so he's in a fairly good position. Look for him to keep the wards up around his mid lane as well. I think that's just because they got greedy on the extra camp for Looper. Generally, you only do 3 or 4 camps as a jungler. You get back, you get a ward, and you ward one side of mid lane, so your mid laner can cheat towards that. But Condi wasn't able to do it because they went for a full jungle clear instead. Sure, Looper's ahead now, but that really does hurt their mid lane.
Yeah, we'll have to see if Looper can bring that into a mid game. Good devastating charge there, just knocking TRN back for a little bit of damage, but you know, things are going to stabilize in the mid lane now. Rise probably can't abuse Vlad as the lane goes on, so that soft counter situation going to even out a bit, and we'll probably go back to farming.
Yeah, evens out a little bit. We'll go back to farming just because of the levels Vlad was able to grab more than anything else, but good news, he didn't get the revolver on his first back, so Dade's still probably in a position where he can do a slight amount of bullying, because if you keep that E stacked up to push back in, it is going to mean that you don't grab as much as a return gain coming through. Dade knows because of how aggressive Vlad's playing.
And right now just kind of thinks, you know what, don't want that to happen again. Don't need to play as aggressive. Had my Sapphire Crystal advantage early on, so just hang out, be safe, and farm away.
They've bought Morgana as well. Another 3-man gain coming through. Can he dodge it?
He does not have the flash. A good flash coming through there to get the knockup, but Dade dodges the binding, and he'll walk away safely.
W with a huge misplay there with the flash on top. The knockup meant that should have been a sitting duck target. Dade should have been 0-2 right now, but instead, able to survive in the lane, gets another flash out, and there seems to be a very clear message coming through from Kx.Happy. We want to smash Dade.
And that's, you know, a strategy that a lot of teams have employed against M3, so I can't really blame them, but Dade dodging that second gank, very important.
Yeah, it certainly is. Keeps him in the lane, keeps him farming up, and now a dive coming through from Condi.
Yeah, they'll be like, Dade's like, please gank Eternal for me. Get some vengeance here. The gank does start. Twisted advance down on SMLZ. Even pops a fate score, but didn't need it.
Yeah, didn't need it. Just trying to keep his support very happy to maybe stick around for the second one.
Oh, Condi going in aggressive. Nautilus flash hook there. Going to land the dredge line. Looper's also here as well. He's teleported in. Devastating charge back in, a double for Kalista.
That is so huge. Kalista ahead for this mid game just means that a lot of the aggression that can come through from Kx.Happy is going to be negated, because if there's anyone that can really shred through mid game targets, it is that Kalista if she goes the AoE build.
Yeah, and I love the adaptation from M3. Dade's like, well, guys, I'm getting some pressure. And they're like, you know what? Probably can't gank the Vlad lane. Let's go gank another lane. And top lane it was.
Yeah, exactly right. They pulled the Sejuani up there. And then, of course, because no flash available, had used it aggressively on Dade, was able to make him pay. So I completely agree with you. Go dive the lane with all of the early game pressure. Dade doesn't have much of that. He's, of course, going to scale up very nicely into the late game, but there's an easy way to give him a free lane, and it's to start killing other lanes.
Yeah, I mean, even if he falls behind, the other lanes get ahead, you can probably win if you get 2 out of 3 lanes up. So Eternal going to get ganked again as a result. Condi with the knock-up. Looper going to follow in. Barrels everywhere. Looper still has his ult. He finally pops it, and Eternal nowhere to go. No flash and no hope. Looper with the kill.
And all of a sudden, Looper is so far ahead in this lane. 1-0-1. There is about 12 creeps in that wave. He's going to be able to pick up all of the CS and will be like 15 ahead. Love CD's been caught.
Yeah, caught there. Knockup coming in from Nunai as well. Black Shield on there to just keep it going. SMLZ, though, going to do it into the fray, and he's quite strong right now.
2 versus 5.
As well. Make it 5 versus 2. Fate's Call popped as well. Can Nautilus get away? They're actually going to go in for the kill, but he's going to be the double instead.
Yeah, so because teleport had been used earlier for Looper, that will mean the first dragon goes across to Kx.Happy, but you know, I don't even know whether that was worth it for the Maokai to port in. They were definitely going to win the fight anyway, and he's now 22 CS behind, probably going to lose that whole wave. And they've also ceded top control of the jungle with that teleport. They're going to be able to invade the blue. Might be able to trade if they go quickly here on the bottom side, but it definitely won't go across onto the Vlad.
Yeah, Dada even just popped his ulti in the mid lane. They'll get a blue buff steal, though, so that's a good trade. Nunai going to pick that up, does have the smite. Trade steal on the other side, and most importantly, Dade's the one that gets the blue.
Yeah, so Dade able to get his blue, doesn't go across to the Vlad, who does actually need it for cooldown reduction early. Vlad's like to sit around the full 40% cooldown reduction all game. Looks like he's carrying some on his runes because he's going for Merc Treads as his boots. Generally, you want to be able to grab 40% just through one item in your, of course, runes there. So we'll probably have scaling blues coming through in the lane. Would explain also why Dade could bully so much early game because he didn't have any MR.
Yeah, we've seen this as a very common trend among mid laners. Almost all of the laners going for those big scaling blues. So it might hurt him a little bit here. Dade with the blue that can start to bully once again.
Yeah, and Dade, he's got tier. He's nearly got his catalyst. Probably going to have maybe a 16-minute roller with those 2 items coming through. So, you know, after being camped, he's still CS very nicely. Highest on the map for himself along with SMLZ. And even though, what was it, 3 returning ganks? Not falling far behind.
Yeah, I mean, just the 1 death, barely impressive due to all the early attention. SMLZ also sort of getting out of control as well. Almost up with a Bloodthirster here, just over the 10-minute mark. So Kalista now back in the 2v2 actually with Kx.Happy getting that first Dragoning rotation. Could start to bully down the bottom, and that's why Nunai's here.
Yeah, so Nunai, he's been rotating around the map relatively well in this early game. There will be a ward that spots him out here, so not much is going to happen, but he's been looking for the counter ganks. He's been very proactive on his ganks with a Sejuani, who we more know for the level 6. And now that he's picked that up, his first 6 gank will be very impactful.
Yeah, Stalker's Blade done. Actually quite an aggressive choice there for extra CC. Cinderhawk also completed as Love CD might look to go in here. Black Shield down means that Love CD doesn't want to throw the dredge line, but just some pierce damage coming through, and we've seen this from Sivir in this matchup. When she falls behind, if you can't control those minion waves, Kalista will bully you.
Yeah, exactly right. You want to be able to shove completely in, but not able to do that. There's a nice trade coming through in this mid lane for Churchree. He's started to get back into it now that he's got some levels coming through, so Dade, he's going to have to go back and buy. Lane will once again neutralize once the catalyst has been picked up.
Yeah, Vlad getting to the point in the lane where we can start to take over a bit. Getting level 9 for the max rank transfusion. Got the revolver done. I mean, it takes a little bit more than this to really tip it in, but shouldn't be too much longer for the mid lane, Vlad.
Yeah, it certainly shouldn't, and I want to see what Dade's reaction is. Does he go for the Merc Shreds into Abyssal after his Aurora and become a very good magic tank? Because reality, only really the Sivir is going to be able to take him down if that's the case, and we've seen a lot of risers lately, because of his short range, going with the Abyssal over the Banshee's Veil that we used to see, because Banshees, of course, doesn't give it mana anymore, so there's not really much point picking it up.
Yeah, it can even mix a Frozen Heart in later for a bit of armor. Going to be nice and tanky come towards the late game, so should be fine there. Loop has actually returned to his lane as well. Got himself the Skirmisher Saber plus the Cinderhawk. Didn't quite note this might teleport there in Champ Select, but it's been a very common thing, and Loop has loved it especially.
Yeah, of course. It's just, as soon as you see the fact that they've got a short range AD and UI Hecarim, Smite just becomes a much more attractive option because you can jump on the top of them, very hard to peel you. Ignite's great if you're going to go for that burst combo, especially if they're playing a mage in lane. But overall, you just think that the Smite is there to stay in the top lane for the meantime.
Yeah, it's been very popular in 5.6, so should see quite a lot of it moving through both the promo and the playoffs here for LPL. Kind of one of the interesting things about the Sivir, I guess, we noted that it's quite good with a lot of the tanks. You can run around them, help cut your tanks in. Spell Shield's great against all the hard CC, but one of the best champions against Sivir is probably that Hecarim.
Yeah, it certainly is. It's just the fact that you can dive so deep on the back line, and because she doesn't have a gap closer herself or something to reposition herself, a blink, it's just really hard to get away from the massive horse. So he runs just as fast as you with Ultimate on. We'll have to see exactly how it works out late game. But we said Eternal, he's probably the shining light for Kx.Happy at this point. But at 0-2-2, 20 CS down, Looper, very good position this game.
Yeah, had a rough early game, did Eternal after those ganks actually coming through. Looper even going to come through for a trade. Good burst coming in, and Looper will just continue pushing down the wave. Marco will have his teleport back up for Dragon, which will be here in a minute 30, but Marco probably going to have to opt in for that Righteous Glory. No Snowball Rod of Ages this time.
Yeah, no roller will come through at the moment. And you know, late game, with the Vladimir ultimate, he'll still be fine with his percentage health damage. Won't do that much and mitigates a lot of what Ryze is doing through his ultimate, so it's still a fantastic pickup. It's just not these impact plays. Unless he becomes completely unkillable and is able to solo dive SMLZ for some disruption, going to have to play more of a peeling role.
Yeah, Dade actually using the speed train coming into the bottom side, sneaks his way in, I believe, and W forced to use the Black Shield, so Dade gonna wait. No, actually backs off. SMLZ and Love City right now perfectly fine in this bottom lane.
Yeah, they're actually doing extremely well, getting further ahead. You would think that they have to go back and shop soon. 1,700 gold approximately sitting on SMLZ at the moment, so look for him to get back, get a shop in just before the Dragon. If he goes right now after this wave, he'll get it. Yeah,
going to look in. It's always good to shop before your Dragons. Usually want to leave a minute, but probably a decent timing right now. And Dade actually going to leave again. And this is problems for Vlad. He's gone back, and Dade's just started aggressively roaming.
Yeah, he certainly has. He's been able to shove out that wave with his ultimate repetitively. They're going for another invade here with Looper, of course, bringing a level 10 smite to a party. Not really that fair if you're Kx.Happy. They didn't bring one of their own in the top lane. Just means that even if it gets down to a smite battle, he's going to be able to win against the junglers.
You can see a couple of blue pings there from KX down onto the Dragon. Maybe looking in. Dade wants it though. Condi going to zone them away. Dade should be able to claim another blue buff, and then the other should respawn to give back over to M3.
Yeah, so they aren't even going for the counter invade. They'll get a ward down, but Morgana, she's not going to be able to do anything by herself. They brought Love CD in for support, and I really like the early map movements from M3. They were completely outplayed in the early game. That 4-man gank on Dade in the mid lane was extremely smart. But since then, they seem to have got a little bit more of a grasp on the game.
Yeah, I have to say, that is some scared-looking warding from W there. Knowing that they're EL blue buff invading it, just poke them over the wall. Didn't want to go deep for some extra vision there. And my custom here is the blues back up. M3 probably want to try and take it away before the Dragon.
Yeah, M3 probably want to be able to secure this one for themselves. Looper, he's got about 1,500 gold. Needs to get a buy-in. He's taking the Krugs at the moment. Now he is shopping, so this will be a completely powered up M3 lineup for this Dragon fight. Only Dade, and even if he doesn't have enough gold for his roller, probably shouldn't back just because there's not an impact buy for him to come out before this Dragon. But overall, they're in a great spot.
Yeah, Dragon not getting looked at quite yet. Dade flash forward there. I think that must have been a misclick. And I think Juju saw it as well. It's like, what was that?
Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah.
But it happened.
It did. Flash ulted into the minion wave.
Happens to everyone.
He wants to get extra E damage on the caster creeps.
Every now and again, yeah. You just try and smite your blue buff, and you end up over the wall.
Yep, as Condi going to take away the Scuttle Crab. Now setting up a bit of additional Dragon Vision here for M3. Nuno is actually in the area as well, sweeping out Pink Ward. So Jungler's going to have a bit of a standoff, trading Pink Ward for Scuttle Crab. Not a bad vision trade there for both sides. As SMLZ returning with the Bloodthirster, starting again, bullying the Sivir despite the Infinity Edge.
Nuno's been caught.
Oh, that's bad news. Dredgeline lands out of the Arctic Assault. Condi going to come in as well. SMLZ diving through. Dredgeline goes in there. Good Fate's call to keep Nautilus safe, though. Does dive back in, but damage coming to Morgana. A great flash ulti, but SMLZ gets the snipe with the pierce. Going to look for another kill. Gets it and flashes away, but Sivir's picked up Nautilus as well. Now diving onto SMLZ. Looper's down as well. Condi in the area, and Dade arriving real late, but Looper finds the ulti, gets the kill into Eternal. Now Dade's going to join in the party. Takes out TRN. Vladimir going to get chased down here as well, and Dade sweeps in late to play Janitor.
Yeah, a good Janitor clean up there from Dade. He wasn't able to get down as early, but that was horrible. I was about to compliment Nunai on his map movements. He just completely zoned out for a second there. Auto path through a Nautilus at Callista. He definitely had a Gragas tailing him. Just not great understanding of what exactly was going to happen, especially because of how far ahead SMLZ was in that lane. In a 2v2, they were just much stronger. Now Sivir's got 2 kills. She's got an Infinity Edge and a Brawler Glove for herself. It might go different this time around, but that was just bizarre.
Yeah, and SMLZ's gone back, got a recurve bow, and it's funny that you mentioned it before. It was Dade returning for the roller.
Yeah, and we see going in there, just a bad pathing coming through, able to grab him out of the Arctic Assault. And SMLZ just does so much damage at this point. The aggression that came out from W nearly saved Nunai here, but just understanding exactly how much damage the Ren needed to be done. Churchery he arrived much earlier because of the roller pickup that you just mentioned, was able to, I guess, nearly swing this one around, but you can't ever underestimate how much work Hecarim is going to get done in these mid-game fights, and goes aggressive, gets into the brush. You see everyone trying to flash into that brush just to make sure they survive. Playing with vision, very important against Vlad because he maxes the Q. It's a point-click ability. If you can get out of his sight, you can generally survive at the end of skirmishes.
Yeah, he just loses so much DPS. That's a great point there. As we can see, wards in the area as well. Nunai clearing a couple away. Dragon, of course, did go to M3 after the end of that fight as well. So 3,000 gold lead plus a Dragon apiece here. No towers felt is interesting here as we approach the 20-minute mark. And Nunai is looking for a gank. Yeah,
Nunai wants to get in there. The ultimate is available for Sejuani. I'm surprised he just hasn't thrown it out because they do have some follow-up to come through with the Sivir ulti, but they're just being patient.
Yeah, Pierce landed out there as well. Just a bit of harass, getting good Ren stacks down. Love CD going to clear out a ward as well. And Condi's actually come to play, so could see a 3v3 soon. But Sejuani going to join in. They get Sivir ulted in. Massive ulti on top of SMLZ. Ulti goes down for Nautilus, but Love City just going to get chased in. Condi can't quite disengage, might get chased down himself. Has to dodge the binding, quite tanky on the Gragas. Barrel comes through. Binding just misses as he body slams out of the way, but Kx.Happy, 2 clean kills in the bottom.
Yeah, very good gank. It was patient in the end. I thought that they could have got one a little bit earlier, but waiting for them to group up on the other side of the lane because there was no ward there meant that they were able to pick up the double, and that's much better. As we see a skirmish in the mid lane, Gragas going to pop his head in, but these guys, they're honourable gentlemen, just back away from each other. Dade doesn't want to win an unfair duel.
No, I mean, he's very tanky at the moment. In fact, both Vlad and Ryze going for fairly tanky builds. We've got the Merc Treads done for Dade with the Roa. We've got a Spectral Shroud actually coming through, and the Will of the Ancients, and double Kindle Gems here, so it's just tank stats aplenty.
Yeah, it certainly is. It looks like both of them are going for Spirit Visage.
Yeah, and that would be cool. I mean, Spirit Visage, Vlad, something we have seen a little bit of. More of the utility build, probably going to go for a Ryle's in there as well, but Spirit Visage Ryze, it's been a while.
Yeah, it certainly has been, but Dade, he's just, he's baiting him here a little bit, and I like it because it gives you some of that cooldown reduction that you do need. I actually think Woda is a decent item on Dade. On Ryze at the moment as well, for the exact same reason. Gives you some of that cooldown reduction that he needs so much along with his build, but see exactly what he's going for here. Does shove out his way. He will get a free shop, and a lot of attention has been focused mid lane throughout this game. You feel that M3's missed a trick by allowing Kx.Happy to now change that over to the lanes and not really punish it. They're keeping up good vision around the mid lane, but they're ganking the side waves now, which is really going in their favor.
Yeah, and you can see the other issue potentially as Condi farms away the Krugs. It's Looper here in the top side. Massive right now. Got the Phage and the Sheen. And was going to ask you if we would see the Trinity Force, but he's snowballing so well that he might as well.
Yeah, exactly right. And generally, if you're going to go that build, Trinity Force, the Phage has some extra bang for buck, so you grab it, and then you go a little bit more tankier. However, he got that far ahead that he didn't feel it was necessary to go any tankier, but Kx.Happy has just taken 2 turrets, stolen a blue buff. They're back within 800 gold, looking very good in this mid-game. This is where we said they were strong.
Yeah, we talked about the rotations being great here, and M3 just sort of sitting on the sidelines being like, oh, you're taking all our stuff, maybe we should do something about it. But SMLZ going to go back for the Hurricane Dragon, back in a minute 55 now as well. Righteous Glory, Glacial Shroud done for Eternal, cooldown boot, Spirit Visage done for Vlad. Things looking up for Kx.Happy.
Yeah, it certainly is. One thing I will pick out is Churchree. He's not running the CDR scaling blues because he's gone cooldown reduction boots as well as the CDR on the Woda and on his Spirit Visage. So he's actually over the CDR cap by a long way at the moment. If he had scaling blues, it would be somewhere around 60%, which is just completely bonkers.
Approaching Earth levels of CDR, which of course we can't get to here on the Rift, unfortunately. Eternal will pop a ward in, but Looper with the smite is going to take the Grump away.
Yeah, but what that will mean, and what I really want to point out, is against Nautilus, CDR boots are just probably the best pickup you can have in the game. His auto attack does so much. The slow is annoying in the team fight, especially now it's just on such a low cooldown. Not to mention there's a point and click route on the enemy team. You really want to have those Merc Treads, and so far, no one on Kx.Happy's lineup has gone with it. They're so susceptible to picks in the mid game. I think they've missed a trick here.
Yeah, I mean, it's just Dade here who's kind of the spokesperson for Merc Treads in the mid lane, especially at this point. Loves to buy this item almost to a fault in certain situations, but it looks great in this meta, and that's good for Dade.
Yeah, and I love that you pointed out he did it on everything. Did it on Yasuo, does it on his Azir, and He's going deep.
He is going in. Pops the ulti, runs in. It's sort of interesting to see the speed up being relevant there in the matchup against Vlad, but all that consistent damage here in the mid lane. Ryze able to keep up and almost compete with the spell vamp there.
Yeah, and the thing about Ryze is that he's all about the consistent damage. Sork boots are great on like Ahri, champions like that that are about getting one big spell rotation out, blowing someone up, getting away, because the flat pen, early game especially, is just so gold effective. However, Dade, that's not the kind of player he is. He wants to be in there for the late game team fights, brawling with these guys. He's a machine gun AP at this moment, scaling off all of that mana. So really is a smart move as we see Lupa going deep.
Yeah, Lupa is so strong, has the Trinity Force, pops the smite down as well. Ultimate just short there for Lupa, but TRN's going to be forced away. SMLZ will get the turret, but Ultimate landing down as well. Condi going to peel them off. Good Black Shield. Going to keep the Sejuani safe. A good returner for KX to protect their AD carry.
Yeah, but they don't have a teleport, so they're going to have to trade a turret for a dragon again. M3 will be able to grab the second dragon of the game. They grabbed the bottom turret, I believe, so it's 2 turrets to 2 turrets now with Lupa taking his top. Now the third one being picked up by KX, but overall a much better movement. You got the summoner spells out of Sivir. You got the ultimate. There was no way counter-engage was going to come through, and it was just all through a very heads-up Lupa play.
Yeah, and as we look now, 2 dragons to 1, 3 to 2 in turrets after Maokai taking the trade, but only 1,000 gold up here for M3, so a fairly close game, and with all the scaling that's happening, not too surprising.
Yeah, exactly right. They're just waiting to get into their sweet spot. I just want to point it out one more time. There are 3 sets of Merc Treads that are going to be finished off by M3, and only 1 currently coming through for Kx.Happy. And with the tank meta, with all the CC that comes through, I nearly feel like 4 Merc Treads with only the AD carry having an excuse to not get them until late game really is where we're now at, and it just looks like Kx.Happy not going to be able to shrug off a lot of the CC.
Yeah, and it's just an issue. It's a lot of soft but consistent CC, and Merc Treads is fantastic in that situation. Maybe if we even go too deep on the soft CC, could see the return of Swifty spawn.
A man can dream.
I knew that would make you happy as Lupa returns to the top side. Massively far ahead on CS, by the way. It's just free farmed his way into the top side of the map. 205 to 161 CS. Skirmisher Saber sent the whole Trinity Force. Lupa in his happy place.
Yeah, he certainly is. And the problem at the moment with this smite meta is the fact that you can't trade with him because of the buff of the Gromp. He's been picking up every single time it's off cooldown, and it's just so much damage. You throw in the fact that he's got that challenging smite to make you do no damage at all. You see how quickly he clears out waves. He's not even attacking it at the moment. He's still able to take them down. So
might have had a connection issue there, as he do have a pause, but still getting the creeps anyway, thanks to the gift of the Toadstool there. So nice stuff from Lupa. I mean, he's had a great game. It's been a while since we've said that about Lupa, to be perfectly honest, but it's nice to see him finally looking good as Dade fired up in game 1.
Yeah, he certainly is. He's having a pretty good one so far. He's finished off the Seraphs. He's got the Roa, so both of his items fully stack. He's in mid-game Rise mode, and he's got there by like 25 minutes. That's pretty decent.
I mean, that's the part time that you'd love as a Rise player. Normally thinking closer to the 30-minute, possibly even the 35-minute Rise. Glacially slow when it comes to powering up, but Dade has made it work at a very good clip. And we talk about the scaling here. It's hard to call an exact winner, but I think we might tip the hat to M3.
Yeah, because of the fact that they have someone to deal with the enemy AD, I'm definitely going to give it to M3, just because Lupa at this point of the game is going to be much more effective than Turnal. If the situations were reversed and you had Eternal being able to dive and Vladimir with the follow-up damage, definitely would have given it over to Kx.Happy because they have a good, consistent team fight coming through. But yeah, if Lupa just able to get that smite through the ultimate, charge onto the backline, take one member out, we've seen this is why LeBlanc, even though it's a tank-heavy meta, is still so important, because in a 2-threat comp, if you can remove one threat, there's just not enough damage to get it done.
Yeah, it's just so much easier once you get to that stage of the game. And Hecarim's been a popular pick throughout the meta as a result. He's kind of a bruiser, I guess, does get tanky towards the late game. Probably look for Lupa to move into tank items now that he's got his big damage items coming through. And Kx.Happy, we expect them to have a couple of struggles here in their first opening game. And right now, M3 looking like the 9th place LPL team, a team that barely missed the playoffs.
Yeah, they certainly are looking good. And you think, where was this M3 that was playing against Vici, the controlled M3 that wasn't rushing things? You saw after that initiation in the bottom lane, Lupa was more than happy to back away and take the dragon. What cost M3 was the fact that they wanted to fight straight away after they got their Baron, weren't in a lane where it was used to any effect. So Wow.
Yeah, Lupin is going in at this point. I don't think he really cares who he finds, as Nunai with the Black Shield will assault himself over the wall to safety. But M3 maybe want that mid tower. They're looking to push it, but TRN's going to join in as well for a bit of wave clear. Dragon not back up quite yet, but M3 starting to get some more aggressive vision down as Vlad getting caught, forced to pull out the depth charge, landing in on Sejuani. Ultimate in there, gets a bit of a mini stun against the wall, but Condi, slight misfire there.
Yeah, it certainly wasn't. It was all the fact that Lupa wasn't there, so they couldn't really take a fight. Both teleports nearly back up. Of course, Eternal's just off cooldown, so they'll continue to try and pressure in, but as we mentioned, the League of Tanks, sieging is not an easy task.
No.
There's so much anti-dive coming through that you can't really dive turrets anymore. Everyone takes so long to kill, and you just don't have that long-range AD carry.
Yeah, Siva pretty safe on the wave clear. Vlad actually surprisingly safe on defensive wave clear duty as well. So Looper instead will take his favorite thing. It's the Grump.
Yeah, so he grabs another Grump for himself. It's probably the most important buff on the map late game. Like blue buff, red buff, everything included. Grump is probably the best apart from the 5th Dragon or Baron, which helps out everyone. Solo buff-wise, Condi and Lupa, if they can grab both buffs, will win most team fights.
Yeah, it's one of the cool benefits of running the Smite teleport, specifically on the red side, actually. We didn't even quite mention it, but if that's something that's going to be more popular, teams tend to want the red side already. I mean, that's just one additional advantage you get as well.
Yeah, it certainly is a good one. There's a cheeky thing you can do on blue side, though, if you are a really push-heavy top laner, and that's go smite their Raptors for the Raptor sense and always have a clear top lane for ganks. We haven't really seen it that much so far because of all the lane swaps, but particularly early game, it is very worthwhile to go grab that one.
Yeah, I feel like we're still definitely learning the intricacies of the Cinderhawk top laners, but teams are starting to get better at it, starting to get more aggressive with the neutral clearing, with the 2 smites, starting to get better at just taking away the jungle buffs, or even using the smite in different situations. It's been great to see the evolution. Vlandre, I don't know what you started, but it's been a crazy world since you did.
Yeah, it certainly has been, and I actually really like the diversity it's adding. There's another layer to lane swaps now. All of a sudden, maybe you have to start forcing 1v1s. We're used to saying force a 2v1 because your AD is weak, but if you're not in a position to be able to challenge the smite, you have to go up there with one person so you can gank the lane.
Yeah, you do, as we see Kx.Happy trying to push some of these lanes out here. Dragon up at a minute 40 would be M3's third and KX's second. Again, it's been a fairly slow game. The gold slightly pushing ahead now in favor of M3 after some decent fights, but with all the scaling going on, it's expected to be a longer game. Certainly seen 5.6 show us closer to that 45-50 minute range as far as average game length goes, but KX continuing to rotate here. My only worry might just be that their comp, we said it in draft, maybe a bit too mid-game focused for this pace of game.
Yeah, it certainly is a mid-game focused comp just because of the Siva, and she's 4-1-2, so she's going to be completely fine late game. There's a couple of CS behind, about 30 odd at this point, but is still having a very good early game. So Siva, she's scaling up nicely. She's got her last Whisper to start shredding through some of this armor. Will be doing meaningful damage to Lupa. But I completely agree. In the late game, when you have to deal with Lupa diving on top of you, she needs some more tools to be able to get it done.
Yeah, I like the Mikhail's there from W as a result. Will supplement the Black Shield for additional peel coming through. Wonderful to see the Rylas coming through for Vlad. Actually has the Zhonya's now as well. So there's options here for KX. They're not massively outscaled in the late game, I don't think. But certainly M3 with just a slight edge there. And Dragon, people starting to set up vision. No one's really gone into the neutral zone here to try and clear some vision out. Even M3 is going to clear wards on their side.
Yeah, the problem is that both initiators are in the top side of the map right now, so they feel a little bit unsafe, A, of getting picked by the Rise and all of the CC that will come through from Love CD, or B, just getting caught by, Nunai in that jungle, just going to be able to rip people apart if they do get anything down from the Sejuani. Very tanky at this point. And you see, no one really willing to fight.
No, Condi threatening there as well. Giant spell done for him along with a locket. So good tank items coming through. Nunai actually in a similar situation. No massive extra health just yet. A chain vest actually instead to join in with the Sightstone. But M3 pull away the Dragon. They're going to look to go in, and Lupa's already run down the lane.
Yeah, so Lupa's run down here. He won't have that big home guard boost coming through, but will still be strong. They're going to fight.
Yeah, Dragon going to go low, but Kalista will secure it with the Ren. Ultimate coming in, and Tree going nuts there on the Vlad Dade. Blocks him up, and Lupa's right in the backline. Dives in onto TRN, and Siva has to flash over the wall. Vladimir is going to go down. Zonni's at the very last second. Condi going to get locked up, but he's so tanky, and Vlad finally falls to Looper. W going to be under the same fate. Eternal flashes away, but gets tagged by a Ren. Flash forward there as Dada gets another kill, and it's 3-0 plus the Dragon for M3.
And pastry time, you see the usefulness of the Merc trade. 3 members got hit by that Glacial Prism, and it just did absolutely nothing. M3 able to run away with the team fight. They're going to grab Baron off it, and this is the only problem with Siva in this meta. She had to flash over terrain, and because she's so short range, could not get any work done. If that was a Tristana, if that was a Caitlyn or a Jinx, would just have been able to free hit over the wall. Instead, had to run around to rejoin, and it just meant there was no damage to be done.
Even Kalista, who's remained surprisingly popular in this metagame, despite all the tanks, she can struggle there sometimes. Also would have been okay there, so M3 get the Baron. They actually don't get the mid outer turret, which is somewhat hilarious, but shouldn't be nearly as hard to see. In fact, Dade, he's on it. He gets it down.
Yeah, able to grab it now. They've just opened up a 7,000 gold lead. We were talking about how it was only 2,000. Game probably on the balance right now. If M3 are able to use this buff to take down some more turrets, you feel Master3 very safe. But Kx.Happy, they're still in a reasonably good position. They had probably the worst team fight you could imagine, and it was still pretty close.
Yeah, not too bad here. They've certainly got tools to win these fights. It's just a matter of getting into slightly better positions and trying to get that damage done. Vlad lived for so long there in the backline, but Looper, as far as divers go, just a bit outclassed there.
Yeah, he certainly is, and we'll just see. Sorry, a little bit of stuttering coming through, but get that under control, and Looper's been caught out a little bit, has to ult.
Ulti coming through there as well. Actually, Siva popped in there looking for a pick, but Looper has his ulti, does use it, can dash away with the charge as well. We've seen no flash Hecarim for a while, but still pretty hard to catch as Condi going to get onto Eternal, but it's just a bit of poke damage.
Yeah, just some poke damage coming through, but you see Gragas does do some meaningful damage in the mid game if you don't have MR, because of that percentage health he is able to do, and they're just looking to catch some people out. I think that was a flash blown from W there.
Yeah, Morgana did use the flash there, so a little bit unsafer now as we see moving in to steal some of the Raptors away. Do get some of that down, and again, looking for a couple picks here. M3 starting to move the vision more aggressively, keep Looper tagged in a lane. He looks like bottom side is going to be where he's pushed up. A Thornmail now complete as well. Plenty of good options. It's just a matter of M3 making the most of their Baron buff.
And wow, Dade seems to agree that Woda is a good item on Vlad because he's not going to get a Frozen Heart. Probably going to go for... I actually don't know what he's going to grab instead, but he's going to have 40% CDR just off the fact that he would have some on his runes and masteries, and then the Woda as well as the Spirit Viz. He's going to be very tanky in this mid game.
Yeah, who knows? Probably going to maybe GA. We've got a couple of defensive choices here, but Dade quite strong at this point of the game. Lots of consistent damage. That's what we talk about. The spell vamp going to keep him nice and happy. He's kind of going to be poor man's Vladimir almost.
Yeah, he certainly is. He has just as good consistent damage in the late game. Probably better at taking on 1v1 targets than Vlad, but Vlad in an AoE situation is complete king still. Always has been, really. It's just been so hard to get him through laning phases, but that's become a lot easier on this current patch. And M3, they're starting to siege up the base.
Yeah, big pressure here coming through. SMLZ pretty confidently going forward. Tower does go down. Looper gets initiated on a Condi. Going to move again, but Looper with a massive ulti as SMLZ QSS is out and continues to hop away. Looper getting low. Eternal, though, gets knocked back by the Gragas ulti. Dade in the backline going in deep there as Vlad falls to Condi. Maokai goes down to Kalista. 2 kills and an in-hit for M3.
Yeah, and they're looking to push in on the Nexus turrets as well. That might be the game pastry time, and M3 really making a statement.
Yeah, first game here. SMLZ aggressive flash forward, but that's the surrender coming through for Kx.Happy and a confident first game.
Yeah, and look, Eyes of a Killer pastry time, Eyes of a Killer. Dade showing no emotion there after what was a beautiful Rise game. Finishes off 3-1 and 3. Looper probably the star there for me. Did so much work in the top lane. Had like a 60 CS advantage at one point in that game, went off.
I mean, we talked about Dade having so good few last weeks of the LPL. Looper's certainly been a little bit hot and cold, but that was a big game for him for momentum pushing into the promo tournament. He had a massive game there. Dade's Rise just fine, don't get me wrong, but Looper outclassing everyone on Hecarim.
Yeah, certainly did, and we said eternally he had to play well if they were going to win this series. Wasn't able to, but on the side of Kx.Happy, Churchery, he looked pretty good.
Yeah, it was a strong opening game, actually, from Kx.Happy, so we'll see what they can bring to the second game. Of course, a best of 5 coming up, and game 2, then M3 and KX is coming right up.